What's going on, Big Schlong Gamers? This is Spencer, and you click this title and you're like, I want to see the Tesla Storm tiers, and I want to see a review of it. So, I mean, hey, this is it. If you haven't already, leave a like, subscribe, all that cool nonsense. Speaking of that, shout out to the big homie Sluggy YT for YouTube, James Pickering, and E, and also HKMMM. If you haven't subscribed and you want to be shout out just like them, I'll shout you out if you do. But honestly, gamers, if you don't leave a like and subscribe right now, I will literally pour concrete mix in your ears and let it dry. Yeah, so you better leave a like and subscribe right now. Also, another thing, join the Discord, okay? I made a Discord for people who want to know when I, upload or, are about to stream, because YouTube hates me and doesn't let me use community features. But on that, gamers, let's get it. Tier 1 of this field upgrade is going to be double the damage dealt to enemies stunned by the storm. Now, this is pretty simple. I mean, obviously, we're going to do some base damage with it. Not even at tier 1, but with this, it'll do a little bit extra damage. The cool thing about this is that you do get, I believe, a good amount of, just like 10 points. It will double with double points, so, obviously, the more you know. And to be honest, the damage isn't all too amazing. Let's be honest here. It was mainly meant to stun the enemies, not really do damage against normal enemies, which there are some tiers that will actually increase damage for other types of zombies, which we'll get into later. But I mean, this is pretty standard tier 1. It's nothing like out of this world amazing. It's not like Ring of Fire or anything, amazing like that. But it is something that can be considered as good, but at the same time, only an extra, like, I don't know, 90 damage. It might increase over, like, the amount of rounds, but I'm not too sure, to be honest. But I mean, honestly, gamers, let's get number 2. Oh, what the hell wrong with you? Where things get actually a lot better. Starting off with this whole field upgrade, you only get about 10 seconds, but with tier 2, you get about an extra 5 seconds, so you get upgraded to about 15. It's pretty useful. It does stun enemies a lot longer. It doesn't, 5 seconds really ain't that much, time, extra. But at the same time, you get that 5 extra, and if you have insta-kill paired with this upgrade, it's actually really good. I know it's not within the actual tier 2 upgrade of itself, but having 5 extra seconds of insta-kill with this is actually really amazing. This upgrade is really used for, say, like a get out of a pinch situation, or if you're stuck in a corner and you don't want zombies or bosses to get near you. Pretty useful for that. An extra 5 seconds can save you if you have like an LMG or a shotgun that you need to reload. Pretty solid. It is a lot better than tier 1. But sexy gamers, let's get into tier 3, right? Now, you big schlong gamers, tier 3 is all about stunning special enemies and damaging them as well. As you can see, I can stun some zombies, but at the same time, I can stun the Panzer. And you can do this with not just the Panzers, but you can do them with all bosses. Megatons, Manglers, Mimics, even those annoying pesky Tempests, you got them with this big upgrade. Now, it may not seem like a pretty good one, but this one is personally a little bit more on my favorite side, just because you can really get at any situation with this upgrade because of tier 3 alone. With zombies, they can overhorde you, but having like a Mimic or a, Mangler or something that's constantly just pounding your cheeks in half the time when they get really up close, this can save your buns pretty quickly. And honestly, it's basically a get out of jail free card. They could have just written, get out of jail free card on tier 3, and it would honestly work the exact same way. It stuns, regular bosses, which is pretty nice. It's not elite bosses, but it's still pretty good. And honestly, most of the time it is just like, obviously regular bosses spawning within the map. So honestly, that is it for tier 3. And let's get into tier 4. Tier 4 for this field upgrade is actually pretty useful. When using, players that are regenerating a field upgrade can gain up to 25% extra movement speed. Not an awful tier, but actually one that's pretty useful. This is more useful in co-op games. I'm not too sure, to be honest, if this works in solo. It does feel about the same movement speed. So this one, I believe, is strictly just straight up, co-op, which is kind of a shame and a little upsetting because, this isn't really good for solo players at all. So Shark was like, yeah, screw you solo players. Yeah, you guys over there, get out of here. This is actually pretty alright if you're trying to do, like, say, like a speed run and not just a solo speed run. It could be useful, but then again, you do have Ethereal Shroud, which is a lot better, I would say, because you get that extra movement speed and you could use it and solo and have 2 charges as well. I would say it would be, this whole field upgrade would be better if it wasn't for this tier alone. It is really good for co-op. Say if you're like in a bad situation, or you know, you just want to get around the map faster, cool, that's great. But for solo players, it doesn't really work, which would have been cool to see, like just to see, to be honest, because Ethereal Shroud does it, so why wouldn't they just put it as, you know, players who use said can gain a 25% bonus speed. And you know, co-op players can get this as well. Players around player can get said ability, which would have been cool. But then again, you know, Treyarch's a bunch of dodo heads. So yeah, let's just get a tier 5, which honestly is one, I think, the best, to be honest. The next tier is ultimately tier 3, just kind of a copycat version. Instead of regular bosses, it's going to be elite bosses. So, you know, just enemies that have like the skull next to their name, kind of a little nameplate. This will happen more so on the higher rounds, or if you're doing an Easter egg like D Machine or even Firebase C. You don't really see it all too much in, you know, Mount or Toten, but it is still a pretty useful upgrade. In my opinion, it's just an upgraded version of tier 3, which is a little bit lazy in my opinion. They could have just straight up just merged the two and just gave us an extra tier, like even more damage or something like that, because let's be honest, Tesla Storm doesn't really do too much. It's more of a, you're honestly a giant walking stun grenade as this ability. You're not really gonna die. I don't really think you can die unless you're really bad, because I don't think enemies can stun you or attack you unless they're from far away. But that's going to wrap it up for these tiers. Now, for my review of this, I mentioned this earlier in the video, I'm going to rank this about at like a 7 or 8 out of 10, depending on which mode you use it. I would rate this about a 7 in solo, but in a co-op lobby, I would rate this 8, just because, number one, you can merge together and players can gain the whole Tesla Storm benefit just from you, so it's ultimately shared, so only one player really has to use it, technically speaking. And 2, you know, tier 4 of this gives you increased player movement speed. I would rank it a 9 for co-op, like an even higher one if, say, each player gained a stack token. So if, you know, 4 players are around the one player, they gain 100% extra movement speed, which I think would be a lot better personally, and it would make it a lot more unique to co-op alone. But I see how Treyarch didn't do that, because they didn't want this to draw away solo players like myself. But they already kind of do with tier 4, which, you know, they could have done it, but, you know, it's Treyarch, I don't really care. But honestly, you know, pretty solid, pretty good upgrade. I would still pick Ring of Fire over it, but it still has its use over Ring of Fire, I would say. But gamers, that's going to wrap it up. I mean, hey, if you haven't already, you know, leave a like, subscribe, you know, all that cool nonsense. Join the Discord. It's in the server below, and, you know, I post when I'm going to do streams and stuff, or if I'm busy. If, you know, if you like to look at my channel every 30 minutes before I'm about to upload or after, wondering if I'm going to post or not, well, I got a Discord to inform you guys. So, I mean, but, hey, you know, if you made it this far, you deserve a cookie. I love you. But other than that, gamers, I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you have a wonderful day. See ya.
Your hands are cold. Your movements, they're lifeless.